I remember the day like it was yesterday. My cousin was sitting in her red Cavalier, smoking her cigarette, while her 4-week-old daughter sat in the back seat. The car sat in my driveway and parked. The windows were rolled up, and the AC was on. I distinctly remember wondering if she was going to smoke with the windows rolled up her whole 5-hour trip home. If I had known then what I know now, I would have snatched the cigarette out of her hand and told her that if she didn't stop, her daughter would be in the hospital in 24 hours. I didn't know, so I couldn't stop her, and 24 hours later, her daughter was in ICU. The cause of her hospitalization was later determined to be the cause of an asthma attack. Today, I'm going to talk to you about why I think secondhand smoking should be illegal. The effects of secondhand smoke around children are basically irrefutable. Secondhand smoke causes approximately 24,000 to 71,000 children to be born with low birth weight, about 202,000 causes of childhood asthma, about 300,000 cases of lower respiratory infections, about 789,000 middle ear infections, and about 430 cases of SIDS each year. In addition, it's also suggested that there could be a relationship between prenatal and postnatal exposure to secondhand smoke and childhood cancer. Could you imagine if, whenever I was speaking, instead of saying secondhand smoke, I said Chick-fil-A? How popular or profitable do you think Chick-fil-A would be if it caused that kind of effect? Do you think women would continue to eat there while pregnant? Do you think families would continue to allow their children to be subjected to that kind of danger? Do you think the federal government would allow the franchise to still serve the American people? I would guess not. I would guess that most people would not allow their children anywhere near Chick-fil-A. In fact, I would bet that most parents would run at the sight of the cows or the Chick-fil-A sign. So why does a double standard exist in some households? I would guess that most parents want the best for their children, even parents that smoke around their kids. So why would a loving parent put their child in that kind of danger by continuing to subject their children to high levels of secondhand smoke? The only logical answer revolves mostly around ignorance. I remember in the early to mid 1990s, the cigarette companies getting sued for misleading customers. I also remember not too long after that, there seemed to be a big educational push about smoking and smoking-related issues. Smoking sessions became a big deal with things like patches, gum, and faith healers. I propose another era of smoking education, but in this one centered on secondhand smoke and its effect on non-smokers. It's important to educate the world on how their children are affected by smoking, and everyone, big and small, and how important it is to keep children separated from smoking. A few people might argue that most local governments in the United States have done enough to simply ban public smoking. To that, I would say that a total of 3,501 local governments in the United States have laws in effect that restrict where smoking is allowed. Of those 3,501, a total of 999 local governments have 100% smoke-free provisions in effect, either at non-hospitality workplaces, restaurants, and or bars. In 2007, a ban on public smoking was instituted in Wales, England. The fear there at the time was that children would be worse off due to the ban because the amount of smoking at home would increase. A study was done that showed an extremely small decrease of nicotine in a child's system post-ban versus pre-ban. In fact, it was less than 1/10 of 1%. In no way do I mean to minimize the importance of banning public smoking. I'm just saying that in a public smoking ban, in and of itself, is not enough to have a large impact on secondhand smoke's effects on children. I applaud local government's efforts. However, the fact of the matter is, as shown in the above mentioned study, banning public smoking is not the cure against the effects of smoking has on non-smokers. The only surefire way would be to avoid secondhand smoke at all costs. It's not very easy for non-smoking adults to do. Imagine how much more difficult it would be for that child of a smoker. Local governments have given it their best shot and have done a lot of good. However, there is more that can be done. I suggest that the best way to protect children from secondhand smoke would be to write a federal law prohibiting smoking near children. The federal government can ensure enforcement by placing restrictions on certain federal aids on states that refuse to enforce the law. I also feel that the federal government needs to take a stand and say that any adult has every right to smoke. That's their decision. I don't believe, however, that they have a right to poison their children. Thank you.